So that brings us to the point where we kickstart this webinar now. I hand it over to our president Sunil, who is uh, the guiding light for us, and he is a senior alumnus of IIT Kanpur. And over to you, Sunil.
Thanks, Amir. Welcome, everybody, to this webinar series conducted by the Delhi chapter of the IIT Kanpur Alumni Association. We call it the Lighthouse series because the subjects that we pick up guide to the startups and help them to realize their dream. And also the topics that we choose disseminate knowledge, which is immediate and practical to follow. So today's subject is in conversation with smart startups. And we have with us Salil Agarwal. I am Ahmedabad batch of 85, president of iMages. He is a renowned mentor and coach. And we have Anupam Sarawala, IIT Kanpur, ex-IBM, angel investor, and a mentor to many, many young startups. From the startup, we have Amit Mathur from InDesign. They do modular furniture. We will be hearing more about it, but I'm curious that it would something like IKEA, then we would have an Indian IKEA. That would be great. Deepshika Kumar was supposed to join us from Speakin, but unfortunately she's showing symptoms of COVID. So we all wish that she comes out healthy and does not go all the way on the COVID line. So with that, Samir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for that remarks there. Now, I would like to welcome all the audience. And as Sunil said, this is called Lighthouse. And by the way, this is 6 in the series. And you all have, some of you have definitely participated in the previous ones. One thing that I wanted to highlight to you is that IT Kanpur is a very inclusive community. So therefore, what we are trying to do is to try and support in whichever way we can support the entrepreneurship. The idea is open to not only the alumni, but it is also open to anybody who wants to come forward and take any help. So there are many programs we have talked about the way we support entrepreneurship or any businesses in the previous webinars, but today we have taken a very interesting topic. Now this topic is really around, the way a business really starts growing and the way it starts, converting into what is called a smart startup, where the growth is then phenomenal. So what we are going to do today is that we are going to look at two very important factors. Now, there are many factors which lead to a great business, and we can definitely talk a lot about a lot of them, but people, processes, and ideas. Now, when you sort of pull them together, you will see that there are two things which are very, very crucial to any business, and no points for guessing that. One is, of course, funding or cash flow. Well, cash flow could come from an investor, it could come from a lot of other sources, it could come as the interest that a customer shows in you. So we're going to talk about that part. But then many times it is uh, a lot ignored other area also. Sometimes people really don't realize that they can just get some good advice and that can sort of unlock a lot of problems for them. And that's where the role of a mentor comes in. So we're going to talk about that because in a research that was conducted about 7 years back, it was stated that the reason that many of the startups give up is because they feel that there's no hope left for them. But really, it's a matter that if you toss it with some mentor, take some advice, you could probably turn it around as well. So on that note, I would just like to quickly inform all the audience about the format that we're going to follow here. And I can see a lot of attendees there, and I also see a lot of the people from IIT Kanpur Alumni Association as well. So, guys, what we're going to do is we have two panelists. So, we will start with one panelist and then with the other. And we are going to then keep discussing with the entrepreneur who's here, and they're going to share some thoughts among themselves. But after that, we'll open up to you. So, guys, keep punching your questions in there. It is best if you type it in the chat box, but it is even better if you really try to keep it in the Q&A section. You can possibly see it below the screens normally if you're using a laptop. The other important thing I want to tell you that with this series, this time the webinar is just one part. So after webinar, we'll be open, which means that there's a group of IIT Kanpur Alumni Association chapter mentors who will be approachable to you. So you can write into us. During the time of this webinar, I'll announce where do you write so that you can get some information. Now, let's talk about our panelists. Now, we have got two great panelists, as I promised you. I'm going to talk about the panelists who will come in the order as second one. So, I'll talk about Mr. Anupam Saronwala. He is a great mentor, also an angel investor, and he's a IIT Kanpur alumnus 80 batch. He has also been a part of the Indian Angel Network, and he's a charter member of TIE and a mentor at NASCOM Deep Tech Club. So the point is that he has spent a lifetime teaching about entrepreneurship, and currently he teaches a full course at IIT Delhi, which is on entrepreneurship. Now, this is not all about him actually. I could go on and on. I mean, when he retired in 2017, before that he was working with large multinationals. IBM is one name that comes to mind. He was part of IBM research and development, as part of the IBM research lab, and we're going to talk to him shortly. And he has really put a lot of money and advice as well in entrepreneurs, and so we're going to ask him what makes him write a check for sure. So the next person is you, Salil, and Salil, I know you, quite a lot because you're a pretty popular chatty person in IIM Ahmedabad community, and you are president of Images. Now, guys, Images is a very curious phenomena. I must quickly tell you about that. So this was an initiative, started by IIM Ahmedabad Delhi chapter, and this was just trying to bring together a lot of people so that they could exchange ideas in person, meet, and really just chit chat. And also in those meetups, which we saw over several years, those were continuous meetups month on month, and Salil was spearheading it. Then at some point, he opened it up to the larger, broader community of IIMs, and from that point, he has really made a deep impact in the entrepreneurial network, and I'm one of the beneficiaries, by the way. But Salil, you are also a book writer. I understand that you wrote a very popular book called "A Chapter Out of My Life," and you not only wrote about it, but also sort of, brought another 19 alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad share their stories, and I find it very interesting read. I am sure you are gonna touch about it today. If you get some time, talk about it too. And therefore, then over to you, Salil. Take it on. Let's hear you talk.
Okay, thank you, Samir. So, since you've brought up the subject of the book, I must share with everyone that the book is called "A Chapter Out of My Life." It's a collection of 19 stories written by 19 alumni of IIM. And interestingly, two stories are about startups. So, one story is about a person who actually did a startup in the social space, decided not to take up a job, and it's his story of how he managed to do the startup. Another story is about someone who did a startup very early in life, could not continue, and is now in a very senior position. So I think the lessons to be learned from there. It's each of the story leaves a lasting impression on you in terms of uh, telling you real life experiences of people who have traveled this journey. So, I call it gems from the lives of ordinary people. Ordinary because they are not extraordinary. So, extraordinary are people, just a definition that if you Google, you should have the first hit. And these people will never ever publish a biography. So, I thought, let me put their stories together. And it's a nice book. I don't have one handy, but I will have shown it to you. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I should have been better prepared. That's the book. Okay. Thank you, Samir. Thank you for the introduction, and happy to be here in this wonderful forum. Entrepreneurship is very dear to me, and I've spent the last 7 or 8 years since my last job uh, very actively interacting with entrepreneurs, and I must have met a few hundred entrepreneurs in the last 7 or 8 years. And I've met them at all stages of their journey. People who have been wanting to become an entrepreneur, to people who have started a few months ago, to people who are already on the journey and looking at uh, raising funds, people like Samir who have been there for 10 years and still going strong. So all kinds of people have come along, and uh, it's very mentorship is a very interesting role. I don't think there are very clear definitions of mentorship, but for the purpose of this discussion, we will leave that definition fuzzy, and we would leave it as someone who comes in and helps you uh, creates value for your business. So with that, let me come to Amit. Amit, the first thing that I want to do is, one of the things that I always tell entrepreneurs is that they should have a very strong elevator pitch. Now, for those who don't understand what is an elevator pitch, it is your ability to get your message across and tell the audience what they do in literally 20 to 30 seconds. A lot of people come to me and say, I need five minutes to explain what I'm doing. I said, nobody will have the patience to listen to you for 5 minutes. If you cannot grab the attention in the first 5 to 10 seconds, then you're gone. So Amit, why don't we start with your elevator pitch? And I would really like you to do it in 20 to 30 seconds. And then we'll talk more about, how, mentors have helped you, what has been their role, and how your journey has happened.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, Salil. Firstly, good evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all keeping well. A little about myself. I'm Amit Mathur. I'm Colonel Amit Mathur. I retired from the Indian Army after 22 and a half years of military service as an Army engineer. I am an alumnus of Delhi Public School, National Defense Academy, Khadakwasla, and also IIM Ahmedabad. Well, myself and two more of my folks run a company called woodbuzz.in, which sells furniture online pan India. So, the value proposition that we bring out in the market is that we are giving you a complete ecosystem for a replacement for solid wood in terms of engineered wood, which is the future for the industry. So it's a complete ecosystem. I would say just swap your solid wood furniture, come to us, we'll give you something in engineered wood. That's what the whole concept is about. It's about giving you at a much cheaper price point and at giving you, the quality levels which are far more superior than probably what you get right now. Is because we control the entire ecosystem, right from manufacturing to the end customer relationship. Well, that's a little about myself and our team. Thank you.
Okay, that was great, Amit. So, Amit, now to talk about your journey, you started about 9 months ago, right? In the middle of
That's
COVID, and
right.
you have
Yes.
scaled up. Maybe you want to tell yourself where you have reached in that journey. Uh, what has been the role of mentors in this journey? So, let me first ask you a very simple: how, you know, what has been that role that mentors have played for you?
Well, Salil, to put it in one word, it's been absolutely profound, profound to say the least. I can say with great certainty that probably, what I am today, at least as an entrepreneur, is because of my mentors. I can say that with a great deal of certainty. Because, like you very aptly named this particular series Lighthouse. That's what they've all been. They have been the lighthouse, truly speaking. So, the mentors that I've had, and I've had a few of them, because you need to relate that I have swapped careers from a military to being an entrepreneur, and also done a corporate jig in between. So I have had continue to have a couple of mentors, not one mentor. We have a couple of mentors, and they have assisted me, guided me, been there as support for me in various facets of my life and in terms of career also.
Okay, so Amit, talking specifically of your startup, the startup which is about providing furniture. Um, how did you go about looking for a mentor? Many people come to me and they are struggling to find a mentor, uh, and the choice of a mentor is always very, very difficult. So let me ask you to share your experience of how did you go about finding a mentor, and how did you find a mentor?
Well, Salil, in my case, probably it has been very different from what would be a classic case of trying to approach mentorship and trying to look for a mentor. I didn't do any of that, honestly speaking. I came from a background, like I told you, for the defense services. I had people who were looking down on me, who had kind of taken me into their camoodle, people who had seen me very closely and whom I knew and respected. Something like a father figure. So, and it was a very organic setup. It was the cogs, just the best fit. The best fit just happened, and probably I didn't even realize it. Nor did my mentor, if I may say, it's a terminology, but probably at that time I didn't know what a mentor was.
Okay.
I just had a godfather whom I would look up to for probably everything. He did everything better than me. So I just simply looked up to him in awe and said, "Oh yeah, whatever it is, mentor." Probably the word I learned later.
Hmm.
So this particular gentleman, he's carried me right through. Probably we might be hearing me right now. But the point is that uh, at various points in my life, it's been a hand holding, and one mentor has probably handed me over to another mentor. That's exactly what has happened. The mentor that I initially conceived with handed me over to another mentor who was part of his networks, and I've been piggybacking on both of them ever since.
Okay, very
So
wonderful.
it's been
So
wonderful. Yeah.
Amit, if you were to, if you were to go back and start again and have to look for a mentor, right? You were very lucky, I would say.
Yes.
If you were not so lucky, and if you're starting again, or if you are talking to somebody who's starting, and how would you suggest that they go about looking for a mentor? Anything that they should do and should not do?
Well, Salil, again, since I haven't really looked for a mentor, I'm going to what naturally comes to me, that it has to be a very gradual and you can say a very fluid process.
Okay.
It's not like looking out and selecting, like going through a list of people and then trying to figure out which fits best. I think it's more about a personality. It's about getting the right balance with the person taking you as you are, not being judgmental. And there's certain qualities that you would expect in a mentor. Firstly, it has to be it has to be a person who's mature, a person who's already walked the road that you're going to walk. He has to have specific domain knowledge, at least something. For example, the mentor that I call him as a guruji. I won't call him really a mentor. So my guruji, as far as the entrepreneur setup, is right now a person who is an operations person. So so there is a best fit which is happening. I appreciate his knowledge levels. If I cannot, then there's no point in having a mentor, because you won't look up to the person and find those values. So what I'm saying is that patience, networking, a very fine balance, not being judgmental about you, these are some qualities that I would certainly want in a mentor. And I think that kind of once that thing happens, and you realize that there's somebody who's kind of looking up to you with all these qualities, I think that's the time that you would approach and say, "Hey, can you be my mentor?"
Okay. So for all those budding entrepreneurs who are listening to us, I think the first recommendation that I would like to make to all of them is, if you don't have a mentor, please make sure that you try and find one. Now, in terms of trying to find a mentor, my only suggestion is that you need to go out and look at your network and start talking to people. At least start having the conversation that you need a mentor. Right now, a mentor is not going to be someone who's going to be a magical person who can do everything for you. But typically, a mentor would one of the first things, and we'll talk more about what a mentor should have, qualities that the mentor should have. But one of the first things that you need to understand is that you need to have an emotional connect with the mentor, someone who is willing to give you time and someone who believes in what you are doing. Because if that belief is missing, then it does not make sense either for the mentor or the mentee. So let me given have with keeping that thought in mind, let me come to the next question. Uh, and I think Amit has sort of alluded to it in the earlier remarks. But Amit, what has been one single biggest contribution of the mentor in your journey so far? And let me prelude that by saying that many of the mentors would come in and help you either get your first customer or get your funding, or so many of these things, because the mentor would typically help you make connections in the industry from a sales perspective, help you make connections in the investor community, provide you insights on how to do things, provide you some magical answers in terms of how to source products, how to design your processes, etc., etc. So it's all about, like Samir said earlier, people, process, technology, and a mentor who has spent enough years in the industry, understood how to run businesses, would be able to provide you some of these answers. But in your case, what has been that single biggest you know
Quality.
contribution of your mentor?
I would say he's never given up on me.
Okay, okay, very nice.
So yeah, so in spite of whatever inadequacy in knowledge, whatever, he's ensured that I made it up. You
Okay.
know, for example, we've gone through a pitch right now. We prepared our pitch. We didn't know where to start. I didn't know what a go-to-market strategy was. I don't come from that background.
Hmm, hmm.
So, all those terminologies, like for me, there was no difference between a pat and a bat.
Right.
So, all these things, he induced me to do it. And I'm like 47 today. And it's pretty late in life to start up. So he really made me start up with a whack. He did that, at 45 plus. So probably, at that late point in my life, I think only a person, a mentor, like the kind of quality that I'm talking about can get me about to do this.
Hmm,
It's difficult. It's actually difficult because you want to be in your safety zone. Everybody wants to be in his comfort zone. So I have actually walked out of my comfort zone, and it's because of the kind of confidence that the other person has inspired in me. And it doesn't come from people. It really makes a difference when somebody who's actually walked the line says something to you that you can do it.
yeah, yeah.
And he opens up. One door closes, the others don't open automatically in today's world. They don't. He's the one who opens it, and he's the one who's the vanguard, who's actually leading you ahead and ensuring that doors open up. So I would say that's a single more. I'll give you a small example. For example, I was in a dilemma. We had to create this marketing strategy, and if I didn't have the means to do it, honestly, I didn't have the fiscal, I didn't have the budgets to do it. So and it was going to cost a lot of money, something like 10, 12 lakh rupees to create a marketing strategy for a whole setup that we guys are planning to get into. I didn't have the means to do it. But all that it took him was give a call to somebody and explain it to the other person that these guys make sense. These guys are really committed. You can do it for them. And I don't think the guy, the marketing team, the kind of levels that I was dealing with after he made that call would have happened without his intervention. So, and that comes from the confidence that the mentor has in me after seeing me so closely. So it's not that it works one way; it works both ways. And when you interact with people, they understand you, and they leverage your abilities. They bring it forth. So people also, the other ecosystem also understands. They can make a discerning difference between somebody who makes sense, somebody who's hardworking, somebody who's trying to reach there, who's struggling but trying to reach there, and they can see the genuineness. So that's where a mentor really comes into it.
So another value that a mentor typically would bring in and should bring in is, keeping the entrepreneur focused. So sometimes the entrepreneur stays, gets distracted by many other inputs that one receives. So keeping the person focused is very, very important. So I've met people who have just started their journey and they're already sort of thinking about funding. So it's very important to tell them that, look, let's first get there. Let's first understand what you're doing. Let's create a roadmap. Let's create a business plan before you start thinking funding. It's also very important to be like a boss to the entrepreneur, right? The entrepreneur is typically his or her own boss. Now, the problem is that there is nobody to push them and ask them for their deliverables and say, okay, you promised to do this by next Monday. Where is it? So sometimes one of the roles that I have taken on as a mentor is also to sort of help them push along and tell them that we will have a review every Monday to decide what have you done and what have you not done. And sometimes that for people tend to procrastinate, people tend to delay important things, and this has been of great value to some of the people that I've interacted with. So a mentor would actually create multiple forums, and it's also very important to. Okay, let me before making a you know statement on this, let me ask Amit: have you engaged with the mentor in terms of trying to very specifically define the scope and the amount of time that you will spend with the mentor, or is it a more casual or a more open affair? How does it work for you?
Salil, I would treat it in two parts. As far as the entrepreneurial journey, it's been very, very professional, very professional.
Hmm.
We've adhered to weekly meetings, we've adhered to monthly reviews,
Right.
and we've been very sharp at that.
Hmm.
And he's been ruthless,
Right.
honestly. He skinned me, absolutely skinned me. And Trail, I look back probably the progress that I made in the last 2, 3 months. It's all attributable to the discipline that we carried on our shoulders, and I think that's required, certainly required.
Yeah.
So I think that answers it very clearly.
Okay. So yeah, so that's the discipline that you need to have. So when you first find the mentor and you're able to establish a rapport with that mentor, and you believe that this person will be able to help you, there is no best fit, but it is very important to define the scope. Say this is how you will help us. Define the boundaries, and fix a certain amount of time that you will spend regularly and commit to that time, because it's very easy for you to say, okay, not this week or not today, not tomorrow, and those things don't work. You have to be very rigid about it and get into that rhythm of trying to have a weekly meeting or a weekly call or a monthly review or whatever that is. And that's the time commitment that has to come from both parties to be able to make this successful. See, at the end of the day, this relationship is very important, but also needs to be handled very professionally to be able to deliver the value. And because of the absence of this rhythm, I find that in many cases, the relationship is not able to deliver the value that it can potentially deliver. Uh,
So,
Amit, I have
Salil,
one more question for you. Sorry, Samir, just one last question. What tips do
Salil,
you
keep it
have?
short. Keep it short, please. This
Yeah,
time.
just one last quick question. So, what tips do you have to anybody who's looking for a mentor? I think we have covered this briefly, but just as a last question to you.
About tips for mentors. Firstly, you need a mentor. You certainly need a mentor. That's very important to start with. The second thing is that there has to be a you when you decide to have a mentor, then you need to repose your trust in the mentor. And thirdly, you need to have a mentor which probably makes up for your lack of certain domain knowledge.
Correct.
So if you feel that you're lacking in some particular sphere or aspect, probably you need to look for a mentor which adequately makes up for that.
Okay.
And thirdly, you need to certainly have a very critical mentor. You can't have a bed of roses. That's not what you're bidding for. It won't help you. So you have to
Right.
be ready for that. That shakedown, and probably go back to school and just instead of sitting on the back bench that I used to do, just sit on the front bench and just hear him out and just do what it takes. I think it's as simple as that. But yes, it starts from trust. You need to
Sure.
trust your
Sure.
mentor.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
And I would also just one last line I'll add. It is not about finding somebody who can open doors for you. That's not the only objective. So it's not someone who will find you the customers, it's not someone who will find you the investor. It's about someone who will handhold you and take you along that journey and be willing to open their contacts, their network to you. I think that's where I will stop.
Thanks
Samir,
a lot.
we'll take on questions as we go
Yes,
along.
yes. So thanks a lot. I think this discussion at least threw a lot of light on what this fuzzy thing mentor is all about and what it is, and what can it bring to the equation of entrepreneurial journey as well. If anything at all, at least this is clear that many times the mentors will find some information which is tucked away somewhere. So I think that's for sure. And of course there are so many other benefits which are there, networking and helping in operations, as it was discussed so far. So for the audience right now, I just wanted to bring to your attention a site which is called score.org. I'm just posting it on the chat also if you want to store it for some time. This is a place where you can actually find a lot of mentors, and this is a place where you could actually find free mentors. This is what they say. So this is a very beautiful site. Really, you must go and check it out. So one important thing I would like to ask the audience is that if you have got any view on what mentor is or what role it has played in your life, we'd like to hear from you as well. So please keep keep sharing that in the chat window, and of course keep bringing your questions in. Now I guess the other very prominent, very popular, very important side of the business is the investment. I mean, whenever there is a large investment in any company, I think all types of media cover it. And Anupam, you have been writing big checks, so I will definitely like to know what makes you open up your checkbook to anybody. With that question, then I'll also request you to talk to Amit and bring up some more, clarity on the process of investment.
Sure, Samir, thanks a lot. Hope you can hear me well.
Oh yes.
Good, good. So no, I'll ask Amit a few questions, but one minor correction in the introduction you gave. So I teach a course on entrepreneurship at Triple IT Delhi, not at IIT Delhi. So that's in Okhla. And the second one is I don't write very big checks. I am more of a angel investor. I do investment through Indian Angel Network, and we will talk about what investors typically look for. And based on this mentor discussion, one thing I have seen that mentors really help the founders find the right time when to get the next round of funding or how to get the funding. Because end of the day, when you have to build businesses, getting money is an important part, but that's not the only part. Money helps to build a viable and successful business. So, so during my discussion with Amit, I'm sure some specific pointers will come up. But to start with you, Amit, I know you have been pretty much internally funded up to this point, and I also heard when you told Salil that you are looking at raising a round of funds and putting an investor pitch and what all that entails. So two questions I will have is somebody on chat box is saying Anupam not audible. So are you guys, I'm not audible, or is it just the
No, I can
problem
hear
with
you
the
just
switch?
fine, Anupam. So maybe it's something problem at their end, I would say.
Okay. Uh, so Amit, my question will be twofold. One is you started, you said 9 months back, and obviously it seems like you have that domain expertise, but on funding side of it, one was that when you started, what challenges did you have in terms of, even self-funding always have challenges. And then in your 9 month journey, what is at this stage that you decided, okay, you need money? Because money can be raised at any point of time,
Yes.
depending on whom you go to. So it'll be good if you can share your journey with the audience.
Yes.
And what were one or two key challenges you faced and how you overcame those challenges? That'll be nice to hear. And then during this dialogue, I'll add some of more my experiences with startups.
Well, thank you so much, Anupam. What happened was, initially we have always been a turnkey company. My folks like Abhishek and Vipin, who we work together. So we had a company already on the road 3 years back, but it was in a different domain. So, and obviously the balance sheets, everything was cash flows, everything was separate. But when COVID came in, we realized that, you need to have a larger catchment in terms of, market size. You need to be able to reach out to people through omni-channel. You need to have a infinite catchment, which really you can increase. You can have ads reaching out to people, market penetration happening online. So we realized that that was the way to go. So we got our heads together, and I am from a project management background. The other folks are into, one is a civil engineer, and the other is essentially into architecture and furniture design. So when you combine these competencies, we realized that we were a viable force and we could make this work. So we got onto internet platforms and worked our way through, went through those dummy books and internet for dummies, website for dummies, did all that. So we set it up. Then we started working on furniture design, and we came up with a concept in which we should have a family of furniture where you can economize on parts, and you don't, you go in for batch processing, then single exchange, die, and all those concepts which all of us learned in IITs. So we try to implement as much as possible, and the COVID scenario induced us to do things much faster. So we were bootstrapped, and we still are bootstrapped right now. So what we did is we diverted our earnings from for the core business that we're doing, and we set it up. And fortunately, there was not much money required initially, but we put in about 10 to 15 lakhs into the channel, and we saw that there was an immediate response, because probably people liked our designs. They liked the way we were interacting with them, and a customer response started coming in. We started getting repeat customers, and so on and so forth. Within 2-3 months, we had about 30 to 40 lakhs per month of sales. Initial 3 months were about 30 lakhs, in spite of COVID. So that gave us the confidence to do it. Second is that we realized that there was no paradigm shift happening in the furniture business in terms of technology. So technology was there to stay, but we realized that we could do it better, because the machines that we had were specifically for a purpose. If we needed to scale up, and we needed to give up a better value proposition than the folks that are presently giving in the market, the first entrants into the market, we need to do it better, but we could not do it without machines. So that's where the concept of funding comes in. And we realized that for the online business, many people would agree who've gone into it, you need to do a lot of seed marketing. A lot of seed marketing is required initially to create the kind of demand. On the demand side, you need to generate that kind of demand, because people don't know you as a brand. Your brand is not really it's not a kingfisher out there that you can put a valuation of 4,500 crores. So it just doesn't work like that. So to develop and cultivate the demand side, that's where the real funding comes in, along with the specialist machines which would give our value proposition. So we had a value proposition that came out of the gaps which are there. Essential furniture market was aggregators. They're not manufacturing. So we decided that we would manufacture and create the entire ecosystem, right from manufacturing to the touch and feel experience that one could give to the customer, and certain value adds in between in terms of customer relations, in terms of the return policies, in terms of the turnaround time. So we try to give an overall better proposition, and scale up in that sense. So that is where the funding came up. So so I hope you can understand that because we first went for a POC. Once we were proven on the market, we threw ourselves in the market. So, once we realize that, yes, there is a customer response, we realize that we need to scale up. To scale up, we need to go in for machines, because we wanted to own the ecosystem. We didn't want to be an aggregator who has a lot of dependencies on the downward and the upward side. So we didn't want those dependencies. And that's what presently the market suffers. So to obviate that, we realize that, yes, now we need to ask for funding.
So, so is it fair to assume that you have a product market fit now? You know who your customer is, and you're raising money to maybe improve your efficiencies to manufacture, as well as expand your marketing reach. Is that a fair understanding?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, sir. And the kind of product that we want to give to our customers, probably we can only do it with those machines. So
Okay.
we have we have the entire setup that we would want. We worked out with the OEMs that are working this line. We've done all our spade work for it. So now it's only
Wonderful.
yeah. So it's and we've done a pilot project. We've done surveys with IIM Ahmedabad also. So we have those those market metrics also. We know where our market is also, because we are not the ones who shape the online market for furniture. The pepper fries and the urban ladders have already made buying furniture online fashionable, or people are more open to it.
Mhm.
Right now we are going into a micro schism, where we are able to give further value to our customers, rather than just give it to them. So right now the
Wonderful.
people, pepper fry is just giving it to people. Okay, you want furniture, take it. We'll pick it up from Jodhpur XYZ and give it to you. But
Hmm.
what we are trying to give is people, okay, you want this, this is what we're going to give it. You want it in 4 days, we'll give it in 4 days. So where do you want it? You want it by FedEx or you want it by DHL? We'll be able to give that entire flexibility. So it's an on demand kind of system, that we're trying to
Wonderful.
talk about. Yeah.
No, so good. So it means, if I have to summarize, you have a well-balanced team with the various expertise. You have a product which is differentiating, and
Yes.
you have a customer who you know who your customer
Yes.
is, and
Yes.
you have happy customers. And I think for the audience, those are three very important takeaways what investors look for. And one big one, obviously, is investors look for whether there is a market. And I think everybody understands there is a huge market for furniture out there, both for new and replacement. So I'm not going to touch on that. So with those three now, as you are raising money for expansion, so what is your strategy? Meaning, what is the kind of quantum of money, if you want to talk about it, or at least how much runway you are trying to raise this money for? Meaning how many months and
Yes.
all
Yes.
that, and who are your targets whom you are going to pitch. But before we get to that, when you built your investor pitch, tying to what Salil was asking you, what has been the role of the mentor? And I'm sure you have a finance guy who is looking at projections. So just, I think, share with the audience that
Yes.
in your now the next step of raising external funding, where are you, what challenges you faced, and if you can talk about what your expectation on valuation is, which we will come to in a minute.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, sir, about the role of the mentor, I say it's about everything. The mentor has done everything for me. Honestly, I'm not going to mince my words,
No, no, I
because
appreciate.
yes,
So
yeah.
one question I
So
have is the
yes.
same mentor who is helping you with all the various areas like execution, market, finance, all that, or you have different mentors for different areas where you want to use as a sounding board?
Yeah. So, well, sir, like, well, when Salil said that opening doors, well, what I meant was opening doors was actually he opened networks, he opened
Okay.
channels. So he is always the fulcrum. He acts as a fulcrum, and he's the one who kind of gets people that he knows are reliable, gets people who have the patience to take on small players, because everybody likes to see a roll-on plan.
Mhm.
Nobody likes to work for something which might end up as a dead end. But by virtue of the fact that my mentor has a credibility in the market, he is known to be a person of
Okay.
whatever,
So he basically
reputation.
got you connected with some people
Yes.
who are helping
A
you build the
lot
invest.
of people,
Okay.
right from marketing people to finance people
Wonderful.
to people who are in the IT business, ERPs, or it is about working out the valuation. So he's got a whole lot of people,
Good.
and
So why don't we then focus on the mentor who is helping you on building the investor pitch or your funding strategy?
yeah. So he, right from the beginning, when I started off, I was pretty verbose in the sense I wanted to put everything on the pitch, and it's not possible. He already walked the line, so he told me, Amit, this is not going to work, and he toned it down. Probably within 20 days, I had my pitch ready, because he was like going through it almost on a daily basis, pruning it down, giving suggestions, and telling me what is apt for me, and also telling me how an investor looks, how investor thinks, what is he going to look at, what are the figures that he's going to look at. He's going to look at the IRR, he's going to look at the EBITDA, is it going to the cash flow is going to be positive, what is the runway, you're looking at one year runway, when are you going to break even, all those things he had that in his mind. Whenever he was in a doubt, for example, the biggest challenge which came to me specifically was how much should I pitch in as the marketing cost. Now that's an intangible. Now I gave him a huge lot of figures, because legacy data from the initial guys out there in the market pointed to something like 183%, 190% of the revenue earnings. That's a huge amount of money for seed. I'm not sure, sir, whether you would, if I asked you that I'm going to spend 100 rupees on the sales, for work in progress, or sorry, or for the cost of goods and services, and you give me another 200 rupees for marketing for the same period, I don't know whether you'll give it to me. So, things like this. And I said, then how do I template it? How do I, if this has actually happened on ground with the older guys out there in the market, why shouldn't I put it? So he was like, Amit, let me make you understand. So I'm giving you a specific instance. So he would tell me from his own experience that this is not looking good, because there are so many things, like for example, even valuation, isn't it so subjective? It is very subjective. Now, Sequoia can say that, Amit, you're worth only 2 rupees. The other guy might say, Bloom might say, you're worth 180 crores. So probably that's what they're looking for. It might not be such a widespread, but theoretically speaking, so that the audience understand what I'm saying. It's exactly, it doesn't happen the way you want to, because the perspective of different investors is different. Somebody is looking for a 2 year, somebody's an early stage investor, somebody's got a long horizon. So you get to know all this pretty late, and that comes with constant interaction with your mentors only. They are the ones who induce you to think, and they've already walked that road. So they would give you instances and kind of make you feel comfortable with putting certain facts and figures in a manner that is appreciable by the other side.
So, to specifics on you. So, right now you are trying to raise how much money? What's your approach? Whom are you talking to?
Yes.
Obviously, whatever you can share with the
Yes.
broader audience will help them to. If some of them are at that stage, and whatever stage you cover, I can cover rest of the stages. We are missing Deepshika because she is a different stage than you are, but
Yes.
I know about her company a little bit. So, but why don't you share your current status and process and where you are, which will be of interest to the audience?
Well, sir, we're fully energized, operationalized. We are working on a scaled down version of what we would finally want to be. Obviously, a lot of aspects we haven't the means to do it, but broadly, we're just ready to launch. We could launch even today if we had the funding. So that's something I can very confidently say, because the team is in place, and we've done most of the spade work. I confidently can say so. Uh, the aspects about working out the projections, working out the runways that we're talking about, all of that is on balance sheet, on sheets, on Excel. That's all done. So I could show you, our projections right up to 2026. If they make, that's we've already done that. We've discussed it, and we have all those figures and all that. Fine, we know how much amounts we need. We're looking at something like 15 crores in the initial seed in the beginning. So our valuation is our through the discounted cash flow method is something in the range of about 150 crores. So that is what we are initially evaluated, because we have sales and we have those 5-6 check boxes that one needs to do in terms of team and sales and terms of profitability. We have that in place. So from those point of view, we are ready to launch, sir. And
Have you whatever pitch I'm sure you
mm,
feel confident about, have
yes.
you pitched it to some investors, and what reaction you have got? And because that will also be, I think, of interest to people listening to you, that
Um,
what you thought is the great plan, have you got some independent insights, and how it has changed your thinking, if you have made those, or is it still at a stage where you are kind of finalizing what you want to present?
Yeah. Well, sir, we have done the entire due diligence process is over. So we've already kind of stabilized ourselves and reached that equilibrium level where we are confident of what we are doing. So, but we have made initial contacts with three investors, and a few of them are through CII Ahmedabad, and a couple of cohorts that have we had. Uh, uh, we had aligned with a couple of with Sparklewood and companies like this, which help us in investment and kind of obtaining VCs and angel investors. So we've done through that process. I am engaging one to one with VCs also. So that is happening, but those are very initial grounds. We haven't
So
really
let me ask you
yeah.
one question. Have you been surprised with some of those reactions, or it is pretty much in line with what you expected, with whomsoever you have talked to?
So I've been surprised by the variety of perspectives that people bring out.
Okay.
I haven't been surprised, but because we've brainstormed it and people have been the devil. So I hats off to my mentor also. He has brainstormed me and been the devil's
No,
advocate.
mentor is on your side. Now
Yeah.
I'm talking about
But
people
but
on the
but
other side.
yeah, but he's been the devil's advocate, sir. So
Oh,
he has prepared me for pop-ups which might happen. But I'm surprised at the perspectives, and like I say, the way people look at, like, you would hold your ear from your left ear from your right hand, or your left ear from your left hand. It's something like that. People look, read things from right to left, to left to right. That is something which I like to explain to people, that yes, if you are not prepared enough, if you haven't gone through your books and read them upside down, back to front, front to back, probably you will get stumped. But I think it's a part of the learning process. You have to grant it to people. People do learn.
yeah. So we are already at 6:23. So I think I'm not going to ask more questions, but just for, I think, the audience, what Amit has said is a very classical journey. And I would have seen in the last, since I have been investing, about maybe 1,000 proposals. So just to quickly rattle off what really investors look for is, I think we talked about the team, we talked about the market, we talked about your customer. I think customer is extremely important, because what a founder may think customer needs, customer may be thinking totally different. So early pilots and early validation from customer is extremely important. And obviously, then you need to have a differentiating product, the way Amit talked about. Then you need to be able to do your value discovery or price discovery, that is customer really willing to pay what you think they should pay. And that's the point where then you come to product market fit. Until you don't have product market fit, it is always good to get that round of funding from your family and friends, or your parents, or your wife, or whatever.
Yes, yes.
Because till that time, people are giving you money because they trust you as an individual. They really don't look at, is the business plan viable or not viable. Once you reach product market fit, which I think Amit has reached, that's when you go externally. And typically, founders will raise money for 12 to 18 months, which is where angel investors come in. Indian Angel Network, I'm part of, but there are a lot of angel groups. There are a lot of high net worth individuals also. And they will typically invest anywhere from, I'll say, 2 crores to 6 crores. And so that's the sweet spot for angel investors for 12 to 18 months. And they expect at the end of 12 to 18 months, business will meet some milestones, based on which there will be a larger round of funding. And by that time, angel investors typically expect that they will get 3 to 4x of their investment, or at least the valuation. They may not exit,
Yeah.
because the next investor may not allow them to exit. And it is that time when you go anywhere from 6 to 20 crores or whatever. It all depends on the business. I think Amit's business may be working capital intensive because he is manufacturing it. A lot of technology business are not working capital intensive. And at every round you go, you obviously increase your valuation. And valuation, by the way, just one statement. Whatever founders think is their valuation and what investors think is their valuation,
So,
don't be
totally different.
surprised. I have seen difference of 2,
Yes.
3x. It is
Yes.
like founders think their baby is the best. It is then you have to have independent valuation, and you need to give enough room for investors to get their return on investment. Plus, investors, good investors, by the way, will always be conscious that they are not squeezing the founders to such a great extent that founders don't have any incentive to perform. So it is a very fine line. And the angel investors are important to be as trustworthy as possible, because they not only help you write the check, they also become your extended network of mentors, because they all have their own connections. Once they have signed a check for you, they are on your side of the table. And uh, and it is a interesting chemistry between investors and the founders. So I don't want to take more time on giving these parameters, but Over to Sameer for any questions and all that. I think we're already at 6:25.
But
I see a few
Anupam, one
So
more.
questions.
thanks a lot. I think we should now turn our attention to the audience, and there are a lot of questions already. So
Sure.
I guess, maybe we'll start with the first one, which is from Paras Gupta. And he says that I have spent 1 year on a toilet seat sanitizer device, got design registration IPR, but not able to take it forward. I don't know how to proceed further. Try to pitch 2, 3 biological product manufacturing companies, but I haven't received much response. So, so who among you would like to help him, Salil and Anupam?
So I think this is a classical situation of not having a clear marketing strategy. I think if he's got a product and he doesn't know how to market it, so I think you need to contact someone or find someone who will help you market this product better and
Yeah.
create a marketing
Yeah.
strategy for it.
Just to add to what Salil said, market is important. But Paras, one question you need to answer yourself is that you have made a product which seems like has a uh, IPR, but who is your customer? If you need to define a customer profile who will buy your toilet seat sanitizer device. It could be an individual, it could be a company, it could be a, you said, manufacturing company. You need to define the customer because it seems like you have a product which you think is obviously great, but you need to have a list of customers and validate it with them. So, and what you're saying is you're not received much response. Maybe my first reaction is either they are not the right customers or you don't have the right pitch to them.
And another thing, Anupam, which I think you were vaguely alluding to, sometimes you may have a patented product, but there may not be a need for the product in the market. And the product may be just too early for its times or not very difficult to explain. And that validation is sometimes very important.
Okay, so that then brings us to a valuation question, and that question is um, valuation done for a startup for seed funding. My startup, he has given the name of the startup, which is trueman.oo, which is for the gig workers, retail gig workers. It is all set. Few investors I discussed interested and asked me how much I'm ready to dilute. But he's stuck at this stage, Anupam. As you can understand, dilution is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. So my first reaction to this is if an investor is talking about how much you're ready to dilute, he's not a right investor for you. Why I say that is that investors should work with you and determine how much money you need to raise and what your projection is for next couple of years and how much money you need to reach next stage of growth. So uh, I'm happy to talk offline if you are interested. I'm happy to mentor you to some extent. But but if somebody is only questioning how much you are willing to dilute, I don't think it is a good question to ask.
Anupam,
Okay.
let me add one small bit here. A lot of times this question comes up more because the investor isn't really interested in that business and is just making, putting difficult questions. I think if they are finding it of interest, they would actually, if the investor finds it of interest, they will actually go the way you suggested of working with the investor, with the entrepreneur to make it happen.
But he said few investors I discussed are interested. Now, what is the definition of interested is a
Okay,
very
got it.
strange thing, right? But
Got it.
Abdus Salam, my simple point will be, okay, find out if the investor is really interested in the business you are going after. How much amount, all those things are later. So Salil said it right, that is investor really interested or is just trying to test you out? I think that will be my answer.
Okay, so I guess he has asked a couple of follow-up questions, but I guess we'll allow him to connect with you offline. And if that is the thing, then you can write to president at I guess I'm gonna give that email ID on the chat already at some point now.
Yeah, my
Uh,
only point is I read this. Don't give exclusivity clause to any consultant. 5% success fee is very high. Okay. So please, for God's sake, don't fall into these traps.
Okay, so the ID that you can write on is secretary@iitkdc.in. The ID is secretary@iitkdc.in. Now, guys, moving on, there's a question, I guess it's for Amit. To build a team, what has been your experience? Please share.
Uh, well, Samir and the audience, for me, actually, each one of us in the team holds different, abilities and skill sets. And when we come together, we all add to each other. So what happens is that there is an expert among us, among our team, for most of the issues that come up. And in that sense, there is a clarity in approach. Where there is a unified, though it's a diversified but unified way of working. So it's very clear that if there's a particular issue coming up or a thought process required, we will have a discussion. But then we know who the expert over there is, and probably things will work out much better because there is a light on that. So I think the team, firstly, there have to be legacy strong connections. There has to be agreement and disagreement. So there has to be order and disorder. So all those things have to be there. You have and still be together. So that will happen. There will be turmoil, there will be rough seas. But the question is the boat has to be intact. And that is I think you need to sweat it out, you need to cry it out, but you need to do it together. So that is something that goes nowhere, and that is something that I think is the strongest. You might have shortcomings, deficiencies, inadequacies, but if you're able to do this, I think that's good enough.
Wonderful advice. I guess, some advice that I should stitch on the pillow, really. I mean, because finding the team is so very important. Now, moving on, therefore, there's a very interesting question, which is that I like to know, as an angel needs 3 times a return within 18 months time frame. The question is that, is it feasible?
So let me answer it this way. I think let me elaborate. The plan itself should be that your valuation will go up of the company. It is not that angel investor is going to take out their money, but your business plan should be that, let's say, we talked about some numbers, like if, let's say, angel investors are putting two crores, just throwing a number, and let's say 10 crore pre-money, so it becomes 12 crores in 18 months. If your business valuation is not going to go from 10-12 crores to 30-35 crores, you are not really doing good business. So uh, and that's the kind of theory behind it. And second one is, mind you, angel investment is one of the very risky phases of investment. As you go into further rounds, your risk reduces. So and if angel investors make 10 investments, it is only 2 or 3 investments
Yes,
which is going to give them return.
absolutely.
So so that's the thumb rule. And is it feasible or not? I think that's where the due diligence and discussions happen. And some angel investors will really then work with you, or most of the good angel investors will work with you to make sure that it gets you 3-5x return. And by the way, I've known some instances where angel investors have got 21x return within 2 years. So, and a lot of those investments have gone down to zero. So it's a mixed bag. So yes, to answer your question, it is feasible, and that's where the discussions happened.
Okay,
Next one, Samir.
wonderful. I guess, we may not have time for more questions now, so we'll try to connect offline with people who can write to us. I'll repeat that email ID again. That is secretary@iitk.dc.in. Now, I will request Rohit to sort of announce make some closing remarks for this session right now. And Rohit is our secretary, and his email ID just announced to you. He's a pivotal person. He's most active in advising and also organizing all of these things and guiding us. So over to you, Rohit.
Thank you, Samir. First of all, you are the guy who's running the show here, not me. I am really your support staff, if you really look at it from that point of view. So I would really like to thank Amit for joining us here. And I'm glad to have a sapper on this thing doing your job. Uh, I'm sure the sappers are the engineers of the Indian Army, and they are the guys who are responsible for building bridges and everything else everywhere. They're the guys who take care of all the calamities that we land up with, and they take care of it. And I'm sure in times of stress, as we had in the during the COVID, he wouldn't have been out of place starting his business, because I mean that's what they do most of the time. They're kind of geared up to that.
Yes, sir.
So, and Salil, thank you very much for all your insightful that we've had onto this. And Anupam, definitely your legion of insights into angel investment has been welcome, and I'm sure all the startups or to be startups will definitely benefit from you. And I will definitely request all our uh, participants that they can reach out to members here, and whatever is possible to, for most of us on at our level, we will try and extend the whatever help is possible. And of course, Sameer is the pivotal guy for all of this. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining in. Just a quick round of credits. I just wanted to highlight a couple of names who have made this webinar possible. One is the person who's really absent today. That is Mrs. Neha Rahar, who is a batch of 2016 IIT Kanpur. She has designed this webinar, but she couldn't join today because of some other events she had to join in. Then we have got our guides and inspirations in people who are pretty senior batch of IIT Kanpur, Mr. S.N. Jindal, who is on the call right now. I will request him to switch on his video. Mr. Ashok Kamal, who is also on the call right now. Mr. Rajiv Saroop, and then we have got Prakash Rastogi, Jyoti Pandey, and then Anurag. And then, of course, there is the team of webinar poster design team. Really, they're pretty active, and there's a social media team which is also pretty active and helpful. So if everybody can switch on their video and smile, then we can sort of take a screenshot for the posterity.
Okay, everybody stay safe, stay good.
Okay,
Thank you.
guys, just stay there for one more minute quickly. Mr. Jindal, will you like to switch on your camera as well? Okay, so looks like he's not able to hear us at the moment, but thanks a lot for joining in, everybody, and we are closing the session right now.